Okay, so today's presentation is going to be on the Apple approval process, their guidelines, and how to get iPhone apps approved. So let's get started. The first part of the presentation is a brief overview of the iTunes approval process. Um, Apple has a very high standard for the apps that they approve. If you look at Apple's products from their iPhones to their iPads to their MacBooks to their desktop computers, they're very high quality. They put a strong emphasis on design, and Apple only will approve useful, functional, and beautiful applications into the iTunes App Store. Unlike the Android marketplace, which has no approval process, iTunes has a very strict and tedious process to have applications approved into iTunes. In addition to this, uploading one application takes about 45 minutes of time. It's a rather difficult process, and once your application is actually uploaded, it can take about 7 to 10 business days to have these applications approved by Apple. So compared to Android, it's a completely different process, and understanding this process is the first step to getting your apps consistently approved. So how does the approval process work? How does Apple work, and how does our company work with Apple? The first part of it is when you submit your mobile app to us, our system will review it for a certain level of functionality. It'll check to see that you have all of your content in place. And when we receive the mobile app for the first time, our team will then open up the mobile app and review it to see that it's on par with Apple standards. And then we'll go ahead and upload the application. Uploading the app, again, takes about 30 to 45 minutes to upload just one application. And when we first upload your application, the app starts with waiting for review. And what this means is basically we've uploaded the app, and now it's sitting in Apple's giant app review line. And after about 4 to 5 days, the app will then go in review. And the difference between these two is this is where a reviewer has physically downloaded your application and is now reviewing the app on their iPhone and their iPad if you submitted an iPad application. This process can take anywhere from 2 to 3 days, usually sooner, and when you receive an email from Apple that says your app has gone in review, the next step from here is your app will either be approved or denied. And again, Apple updates you at every point in this process, from when we upload the application to when it goes into review and to when it's either approved or denied. So they keep you in the loop, and that is the process. And again, it's about 7 to 10 business days for this process to completely take place. So what does Apple look for? What do they actually approve in applications, and what do they expect from each application that they review? At the top of the list is engaging functionality, and this means generally functionality that a user would use more than once. Things that access the phone's native features such as the camera or the voice recorder or the GPS system inside the mobile app. Basically things that they have functionality beyond just a mobile website. And with our system, we have features that have engaging functionality such as our email photo tab or our voice recorder tab or our QR coupon system, GPS coupon system, food ordering tab, shopping cart tab. Basically functionality that's engaging with the user and accesses parts of the phone that only a mobile app can utilize. The next thing they look for is useful content. This can be things like a RSS feed for a useful blog or engaging YouTube videos. It can also be a nice podcast inside your application. One industry example could be for a realtor. It could be home buying tips or home selling tips. Just useful content that is more than just listing of services or listing of basically marketing material of a business. Basically content that a user can consume and maybe reference more than one time. The next thing on the list would be a beautiful appearance. Again, Apple has a very high standard for design, and they really expect your mobile application to have a beautiful experience, and that includes images inside of the application. It includes the interface and the navigation. It's well thought out, and this ties into a completed application. There's no missing parts to the app. There's complete content throughout the entire application. And this all comes down to basically you have built something that users would use more than once. It's useful, it's engaging, it's beautiful, it's complete, and it's something that they really think their users would, open up more than once and utilize the application in one way or another. And then at the very end, they look for bugs too. So what will Apple reject for? Some of the main rejections that we typically see are things that include items like you have too many website tabs inside your app, or you have too many info tabs inside your app. And what this means is that Apple views your application to be very similar to a mobile website. And that's one of the main things that you need to understand when developing a mobile app is you need to include functionality that's extremely useful and your clients and customers could utilize for their business. And it needs to be something a little bit more than just inserting their website links, copying and pasting their website content, and then that's the finished application. Apple will deny an app that has too many website tabs and too many info tabs. They consider this app to be mostly web-based, is the rejection notice that you'll receive if you have too many website tabs or info tabs. They also will reject for things like blurry and low quality images. Again, I can't stress how strong of an emphasis Apple places on design. So using blurry and low quality images is definitely not recommended. They will also reject for just a poorly designed app interface, something that just basically looks like a lot of time was not spent on the application. Just overall poor quality in the app's appearance and navigation and those sort of items. They will also reject your app if you have limited native functionality, and these are our most engaging tabs, things that access functionality inside the phone that only a mobile app can access. And they will also reject apps that are blatant marketing apps, and the best example of this is an app that has their main features as, for example, listing services or listing, say, if an attorney was building a mobile app, just listing the legal fields that they specialize in, and those are the main features inside the mobile app. It needs to have a use beyond just displaying marketing material for the business. So blatant marketing inside of applications will definitely get your apps rejected, and again, bugs will also get your apps rejected. And moving on, what are some no-go industries? What are some industries that Apple just does not seem to approve apps for, and what are some industries we will not upload your app for? At the top of the list is app company apps. If you had any plans on developing an application for your mobile app company, one that displays all the features you offer and your pricing and those sort of things, Apple will simply not approve that. We've added this to the no-go industry basically just out of trial and error. We've had tons of clients that have attempted to upload app company apps without success, so an app company app is definitely on the no-go industries. The second on the list would be personal events such as weddings or birthdays or high school reunions. Those sort of events, too, in Apple's eyes, the app generally doesn't have a lot of value past the event. So with that in mind, Apple simply will not approve those applications. As much as we'd like to upload those apps and as much functionality and usefulness we feel the app has, events and weddings and birthdays, Apple simply will not approve those apps. In addition to that, Apple will not approve any marketing company apps, and that includes apps for companies like web design firms or marketing companies, PR companies. Basically, anything with marketing in the title is definitely considered a no-go industry, and Apple will simply not approve those apps. And one of the main things to understand here is Apple has these guidelines, and as much as we may view them as differently from Apple, or you submit an app and you feel that it's not blatantly marketing, if it's in these industries, Apple just will not approve it, so we have placed these industries as no-go industries that we simply cannot serve. So here's some tips for having your apps approved. At the top is you always need to include native and functional features. These features include the loyalty programs that we offer, the shopping cart feature, always include an email photo tab, a voice recorder tab, things that engage the user and are functional and can definitely be used more than once by the user of the mobile app. I also recommend using useful and informative features such as an RSS tab or a YouTube channel tab or a podcast tab. Basically content that's useful, it's informative. A user could open it up more than once, reference it maybe a couple times per week. And these features also keep your app fresh with new content, and Apple loves to see those sort of things. Third on the list is avoid making an app whose sole purpose is marketing. Again, this ties into the previous slide where your main tab functions are tabs like services and pricing and features. Those sort of apps are definitely not recommended and will not get your app approved. I definitely recommend to not include any broken links, any blank content. Basically, going through your app before you submit it is absolutely recommended. Just ensure that you don't have any sort of blank content, basically things that could be improved. Apple has a very high standard for content, and any sort of broken links or blank content will instantly get your app rejected. And next on the list is you cannot mention any other mobile platform. I'm not sure if all of you guys know this, but if you mention Android or BlackBerry inside your mobile app, that is an instant rejection, so do not mention any other mobile platforms inside your mobile app. And my last tip for getting an app approved is to make a beautiful app. Spend time on it. Go through it. Upload really high quality images that look outstanding inside the mobile app. Take advantage of the Retina display on the iPhone and the iPad if you choose to create an iPad application. Just basically making an app that would really make the business stand out. So now I'm going to move over to some bad examples so you guys can kind of get a better understanding of kind of what I'm referring to when apps are rejected and what to look for when creating your mobile app. If you look at these are two bad examples for blurry images, confusing content. If you look at the image on the left, you'll see that the library services background is pixelated. It obviously was not uploaded as the correct size. Also, the red clashes with the orange. It just generally doesn't look too good, and that'll definitely get your app rejected. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see a picture of a tree that also looks pixelated. It looks stretched out. It's not the correct size background for this feature. If you look at the description text too, it says this is a description of submit photos. It's lowercase. There's no punctuation to the sentence. It really doesn't engage the user in any way. It's also a black color on a dark green, so you can't really read it too well. These sort of things will get your app rejected, unfortunately. Apple has, again, a very high standard, and anything short of excellent will get your app rejected. Now here's some good examples. Here's some examples with nice backgrounds where the black text is able to come through. They have selected a button background. They have the silver grayish button on the left-hand side and the nice green button on the right-hand side. Also, the descriptions used for the email photo tab is engaging. It's useful. Basically, engaging the user and telling them how to use the feature, and it appears complete. If you go back to the bad example and then move over to the good example, it's very obvious how much more these will stand out and how much more they will engage a user. And these are the types of things that Apple looks for. So definitely upload an excellent background image that's the correct size and really take advantage of that description text. You can say things like, take a photo and we'll add it to our Facebook page, or take a photo and perhaps you'll win a coupon or get a credit for our store. Really being creative and making the feature more useful is definitely something to do to get your app approved with Apple. So moving on to some more bad examples, here's some bad interface and design examples. If you look at the one on the left, you'll see that, I mean, the home background is a copyright of Apple. That's going to instantly get it rejected. The tab navigation is covering the logo. You'll also see in the bottom right corner of the left example, it says the word test. The word test or beta or anything like that will instantly get your app rejected. And it's really hard to understand what the app is used for from first glance. And unfortunately, this is an actual submitted app, and we can work with you to improve these things, but really spotting these before submitting is absolutely crucial. And if you look at the example on the right-hand side, it has similar issues. The background image is pixelated. If you also look at the bottom row of the red navigation, you'll notice that there's two missing squares right there. In Apple's eyes, that is poor interface. It would make the app look a lot better if they simply added maybe 2 more features. So there's a nice 3 flush columns of features, just basically filling up the screen with functionality, uploading a much higher quality background image, and just really blending it in. The red just doesn't work well with a picture of lawyers in the background. So just really making a well-designed interface is absolutely crucial to getting your app approved. And moving on to some content examples, it's absolutely crucial that you go through the content inside your application. If you're using an info tab or an events tab, if you look on the left-hand side, you simply can't just have a white background and a couple words of black text. It looks bad, and Apple will instantly reject your app for seeing that. So don't do what you see on the left-hand side. But on the right-hand side, you'll see a nice flush image. The background color has been adjusted to blend in more with the mobile application. And it just looks better. It's more engaging. It's more informative. And it's going to be a lot more use than just, black text on a white background. It appears that the user took, 2 seconds. And in Apple's eyes, the example on the left-hand side is incomplete content, and that'll instantly get your app rejected. And so here's 2 more examples of great applications. And great applications fully utilize our platform. They utilize the ability to upload Retina quality graphics. They utilize the most robust functionality that we offer, including our music tab, our YouTube tabs, our QR coupon tabs, email photo tabs. If they're a restaurant or any sort of establishment, they list their specials. They include engaging content. They have beautiful sliding images on the front of the application, and just the appearance is of very high quality. And I wanted to include one quick slide on iPad approvals. If you're looking to upload an iPad application and have it approved by Apple, please understand it's a completely separate process. If you upload both an iPhone and an iPad application, sometimes they will approve the iPhone version but not the iPad version, and that'll completely deny both of the apps. So if you upload an iPad app, it's extremely important that you ensure your images are crisp and of high quality. It needs to be very obvious that you just designed for iPad. Otherwise, it'll get your whole app denied. The iPhone version may be up to Apple standards, but if you don't specifically design for the iPad, it's likely that your whole application will be denied. And so what we recommend doing if you're not sure is to simply leave out iPad, just to make the safest bet. So what do you do if your app gets rejected? If your app gets rejected, we have a wealth of material to review in our help desk on Apple's approval guidelines, tips on how to make changes and interpret Apple's rejections. Basically, review the material that we've made available for you to have your app approved. Another thing you can do is you can log into your iTunes developer account to review the rejection notes. Apple will give you a reason on why your app was denied, whether it was for blatant marketing or maybe they didn't like the appearance of your application. They'll usually give you an idea of what they had a problem with and what to improve. So after reviewing those notes, you'll want to make improvements to your app, and then once the improvements are made, you can resubmit your app and try again. And if you have any questions or you need any help, contact us. We're here to help, and we definitely would be more than happy to help guide you along the Apple approval process to get your app approved. So what if you still can't get your app approved? You've followed all of our guidelines, or maybe it's just in an industry that is in our no-go list. We recommend an HTML5 mobile website or an Android application. Apple has a very high standard, and if you're not able to build your application to those standards, the only other option is to utilize a mobile website and an Android app. The Apple approval process is entirely out of our hands, and Apple has written a list of guidelines that you must follow, otherwise your app will simply not be approved. So in that case, we recommend a mobile website and an Android application. So the conclusion of this webinar on how to get your app approved is you really need to understand the Apple approval process, understand what Apple is looking for, understand what they will reject for, and you need to understand what they want to see in your application. Understand what Apple does not want to see. Understand how to improve a denied app. And then probably the most important is design a useful, functional, and beautiful app. Basically, make sure that your app follows all the guidelines that I have laid out. You have fully reviewed your application for complete content, all of the images that you have uploaded